K-drama cycle. Something big is coming, and fans can feel it. It didn't start with an announcement. It didn't come from an agency press release or a glossy teaser poster. Instead, it began the way the biggest moments in K-drama fandom often do, quietly, subtly, almost accidentally. A timing overlap here. A familiar name there. A few coincidences that felt a little too perfectly aligned to ignore. And suddenly, Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young were back in the same conversation again. For fans who have followed their journey since True Beauty, this resurgence didn't feel random. It felt inevitable. Over the past year, both stars have been moving carefully, deliberately, as if preparing for something larger than individual projects. Eun-woo, balancing his idol responsibilities with increasingly mature acting choices, has been noticeably selective. Fewer appearances, fewer interviews. When he does speak, his words feel measured, reflective. He talks about timing, about waiting for the right story, about wanting to leave something meaningful behind. Moon Ga-young, on the other hand, has been quietly redefining her trajectory. Stronger roles, sharper characters, less noise, more substance. She's spoken about growth, about choosing projects that challenge her emotionally, not just commercially. And recently, she's hinted, without ever confirming, that she's entering a new phase of her career. Individually, these moves made sense. Together, they started to look like a pattern. Fans first noticed the timing. Both actors wrapped major commitments within weeks of each other. Both suddenly had open schedules at the same time, a rarity in an industry this tightly packed. Then came the industry whispers. Not direct leaks, but vague mentions from insiders about a high-profile reunion and a project designed to test emotional depth rather than visuals. No names were mentioned, but fans filled in the blanks instantly. Social media began connecting dots that, on their own, might have meant nothing. A producer, Moon Ga-young, recently followed, who happened to have worked closely with Eun-woo before. A stylist liked a fan comment mentioning that duo we've been waiting for. A cryptic post about unfinished stories that appeared on a day both actors were trending separately. Coincidence? Maybe. But anticipation doesn't need confirmation to grow. What makes this moment different from previous speculation is the tone. This doesn't feel playful or nostalgic. It feels serious, grounded, almost intentional. Fans aren't just hoping for another collaboration, they're bracing for something that could redefine how both actors are seen. Because Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young aren't the same people they were during True Beauty. They've lived more, learned more, faced pressure, criticism, and expectations that come with success. A reunion now wouldn't be about chemistry alone, it would be about contrast, about growth, about seeing two familiar faces bring something entirely new to the screen. And that's where the anticipation truly ignites. Industry analysts have noted a growing trend toward legacy pairings, actors reuniting not to recreate old magic, but to confront it, to show evolution, to challenge audiences who think they already know what to expect. If Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young are part of this wave, then whatever is coming won't be light or predictable. Fans sense that too. Comments online aren't screaming excitement, they're holding their breath. This feels bigger than a drama. Why does it feel like they're preparing us? If this happens, it changes everything. Even the silence feels deliberate. Neither Eun-woo nor Moon Ga-young has denied anything, but they haven't teased either. No playful hints, no fan service responses, just a calm continuation of their work, the kind of calm that often comes before something drops. And that's why the anticipation feels heavier this time. Because when stars avoid feeding rumors, it's usually because the truth hasn't arrived yet, not because it doesn't exist. Whether it's a drama, a film, a special project, or something entirely unexpected, fans are watching closely. Every interview, every schedule update, every subtle shift in tone, waiting for the moment when speculation turns into confirmation. And when it does, it won't just be a reunion. It will be a statement, a reminder that some stories don't end, they pause. They wait until the timing is right, until the people involved are ready to return not as who they were, but as who they've become. Something big is coming. And when Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young finally step forward together again, it won't just surprise fans. It will redefine the moment they've been waiting for all along. K-drama cycle. As the anticipation continued to build, fans began to notice a shift, not in what Cha Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young were saying, but in how the industry around them was reacting. Casting directors, writers, and even junior actors started mentioning chemistry-driven projects again in interviews, a phrase that had almost disappeared in recent years. To longtime observers, it felt like a subtle reset, as if the industry itself was preparing audiences for something rooted more in emotional connection than spectacle. And then there was the timing. Cha Eun-woo's name began appearing on internal shortlists for projects that required not just star power, but restraint. Roles described as introspective, layered, even vulnerable, a departure from the polished, idealized image he once carried. Sources hinted that he had turned down multiple offers in favor of waiting for something that felt right. That kind of patience, especially at the height of demand, rarely happens without a clear destination in mind. Moon Ga-young mirrored that same energy. Her recent interviews focused less on success and more on intention. She spoke about wanting to work with people who understand silence, who know how to communicate emotion without dialogue. Fans couldn't help but recall how often her scenes with Cha Eun-woo relied on eye contact rather than words. The memory resurfaced naturally, without being forced. Then came the scheduling anomaly. In an industry where calendars are usually booked months in advance, both actors suddenly had overlapping open windows, long enough to accommodate something substantial. Not a cameo, not a brief appearance. Something that would require commitment, preparation, and time. Speculation evolved. This wasn't just about whether they would reunite. It became about why now. Many fans began to see this moment as a crossroads. Cha Eun-woo, approaching a point in his career where image gives way to legacy. Moon Ga-young, already carving a reputation as an actress who chooses substance over safety. A collaboration at this stage wouldn't be nostalgic, it would be intentional. Almost risky. And that's what made it exciting. Then, quietly, a rumor surfaced about a script circulating privately among top-tier actors. A story described as emotionally restrained, character-driven, and designed for two leads who already understand each other's rhythms. No casting confirmations, no public readings, just whispered admiration from those who had seen early drafts. Fans latched onto one line leaked from the script. Some connections don't fade. They wait. It spread instantly. Whether the line was real or not didn't matter anymore. It became symbolic of what fans felt was happening, a slow alignment of timing, maturity, and purpose. Even fan culture shifted. Instead of demanding confirmation, many began expressing trust. If it happens, it happens. I'd rather wait for something real. The tone became calmer, almost respectful, as if everyone understood that rushing this moment would cheapen it. And through all of this, Cha Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young remained exactly where they were, working, growing, and saying nothing. But silence, when shared by two people moving in parallel, stops feeling empty. It starts to feel coordinated. As award season approaches and project announcements loom, fans are bracing themselves. Not for a loud reveal, but for a meaningful one. The kind that doesn't need hype because the history already exists. Whatever is coming, it isn't about repeating the past. It's about acknowledging it and then stepping beyond it. Because when two actors evolve separately but arrive at the same moment again, the result is rarely ordinary. Something big is coming. And when it finally arrives, it won't just answer questions, it will ask new ones, forcing audiences to see Cha Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young not as memories, but as artists ready to redefine what their connection means now. K-drama cycle. As weeks turn into months, the anticipation surrounding Cha Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young stopped feeling like speculation and started feeling like expectation. Not because of leaks or confirmations, but because of how naturally their paths seemed to keep aligning, just out of reach, but never drifting apart. Then came the smallest detail that set everything ablaze again. At a closed industry event, a veteran director was asked about his dream casting for a character-driven project he was developing. He paused, smiled, and said, "I want two people who already share trust." That kind of understanding can't be taught. He didn't name names. He didn't have to. Within hours, Fans connected the dots. The director had worked with both Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young separately in the past. Once again, nothing was confirmed, but the pattern grew harder to dismiss. Eun-woo's public image continued to shift subtly. His recent photo shoots abandoned glossy perfection for something quieter, softer lighting, introspective poses, expressions that suggested depth rather than charm. In interviews, he spoke about learning to sit with discomfort, about embracing roles that might challenge how people see him. "If I'm still comfortable," he said once, "then I'm not growing." Moon Ga-young echoed that sentiment from another angle. She talked about wanting to portray relationships that feel earned, not idealized. "Real connections are messy," she said. "They change as people change." Fans immediately saw the parallel. It felt like both actors were speaking to the same invisible conversation, from different sides. And then there was the anniversary. Without making a fuss, fans noticed that on the anniversary of True Beauty's final episode, both Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young posted photos within hours of each other. The images weren't related. The captions weren't emotional. But the timing was exact. Too exact. And once again, neither acknowledged it. That restraint spoke volumes. In fandom culture, deliberate restraint often signals respect for the past, for the present, and for whatever is coming next. It suggested that if a reunion were to happen, it wouldn't be announced casually. It would arrive with purpose. Behind the scenes, speculation widened. Some believed the project might not even be a drama. Others suggested a film, something limited, intimate, crafted for festivals rather than ratings. A few whispered about a special project tied to an anniversary, designed to close a chapter while opening another. What united all theories was one belief: whatever this is, it's being protected. And protection only happens when something matters. Fans began to reflect on why this pairing still held such power. It wasn't just chemistry. It was timing. They met at a moment when both were still becoming themselves. Now, years later, they are more grounded, more self-aware, and more intentional. A reunion now wouldn't rewrite history, it would contextualize it. That possibility is what makes the anticipation feel heavy instead of loud. There's also an unspoken understanding among fans. This could be the last time such a reunion feels meaningful. Careers evolve. Paths diverge. Opportunities narrow. When two stars at this level align again, it's rarely accidental. And perhaps that's why the silence continues. Because announcing too early would turn something personal into spectacle. Waiting allows it to remain sacred, at least for a little while longer. As the year moves forward, every major industry event feels like a potential turning point. A casting reveal, a press conference, a single line in an article that changes everything. Fans are ready, not with demands, but with patience. Because some moments aren't meant to be rushed. Something big is coming. And when Eun-woo and Moon Ga-young finally step into the same frame again, whether on screen or in a way no one expects, it won't feel like a return. It will feel like a continuation. A quiet, powerful reminder that certain connections don't fade with time. They deepen.